From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LALATE with huge news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022, your stocks, your bonds, and the breaking news as a retail slump continues on off of target. The latest details are that retail continues to struggle. Dick's Sporting Goods reporting earnings before the bell today, and the implosion of the retail market continues to unravel. The latest details on the stock market crash tonight. Then, the GDP growth will be less than expected. A Congressional Budget Office report released minutes ago, and it signals that my numbers for the GDP growth of the U.S. economy and for inflation are spot on. All the latest details on this CBO report released minutes ago. And yes, more spikes. The FOMC minutes were released tonight, and those are from the Federal Reserve. What does this mean for this U.S. economy since those minutes were released? All the latest details from the shores of Santa Monica, California tonight. The latest details are that a fourth stimulus check has landed in every U.S. state. You need those incredible checks. All the latest details on the big money at issue and why you want to grab those four stimulus checks in every U.S. state. The situation is unraveling by the minute, by the hour, and we're going to go over everything you need to know in this special one-hour broadcast from the shores of Santa Monica, California. A recession for 2 years? Yes, starting next year. All the latest breaking news tonight. A historic major market crash for the housing market. What's at issue? It's going to be covered in this recording. Then, what about the stock market crash? Is it far from over? It is far from over. The downward of this economy could be far from just starting. The latest details on those FOMC notes released minutes ago. The latest details on the retail slump. The latest on the GDP growth and the worries across the board about where this economy is going. But the great news is that I have a fourth stimulus check for you. And countless viewers of this channel, members of this channel, have been getting these fourth stimulus checks. Upwards of $80,000 in every U.S. state over this one-hour broadcast. Stay to the very end and listen and learn as we get these big checks. Start by becoming a member, subscribing, and get ready for the most watched show for financial news in prime time. It's Evenings LA. And from the Federal Reserve to the CBO to the shores of Santa Monica, California, all the details start right now in a breaking special news report tonight. And good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful night. So much going on. We'll have that fourth stimulus check update for you in just a second. But step one is to remember that a fourth stimulus check is in every U.S. state. So you want to get that fourth stimulus check. How do you do it? You stay later in this recording. Stay over this one-hour broadcast. But because I'll be covering these incredible checks that are in every U.S. state. Step two, subscribe. And step three, become a member. In that membership newsletter, you're going to get those huge checks. They're coming up in just a second. But it's a big night with a lot of breaking news. I'm going to go over all that incredible news in just a second. We'll be going over the recessionary pressures at issue as the U.S. economy will be heading into 2 years of recession, my predictions. The latest details on the stock market crash, the housing market crash, and what you need to know across the board. Plus, we'll be looking at the breaking news that came in minutes ago. This is big. We've been waiting to see these numbers and waiting to hear the analysis. What is it? First, we'll be looking at those retail slump numbers as Kohl's is followed up by bad news from Dick's Sporting Goods. Then we have that CBO report released minutes ago that signals that the U.S. economy is not growing as expected. Then we'll be looking at the breaking news as more spikes will be coming from the Federal Reserve. Those FOMC minute notes, I have them for you tonight. It's a major recording, a one-hour broadcast. Stay with me over this one-hour broadcast, and we'll go over those incredible checks. Bear market, yes. This U.S. economy is in a bear market tonight, and the issue at hand is how much more erosion could be at issue. We started the day with the retail sales numbers that came in from Dick's Sporting Goods, and the stock plummeted. The latest situation at issue, let's go over everything you need to know, starting tonight with the four stimulus checks, the Build Back Better Act, and the latest implosion of the retail sales market. A fourth stimulus check is landing in every U.S. state, and later in this recording, we're going to go over those incredible checks for you. They're huge. They're upwards of $80,000. You qualify for them. Single, married, with children, without children, make $75,000 less. Go get it. They're coming up later in this recording. Work, don't work. Rent, don't rent. Own, don't own. And if you're on benefits or not on benefits, they're all for you. They're a fourth stimulus check in every U.S. state. I found them, and you're only going to hear them on Evenings LA. They're coming up later in this recording. Step 1, subscribe. Step 2, become a member. Now, the Build Back Better Act, which is a piece of legislation in the Senate, passed in the House, is currently back underway with negotiations between two major senators. Who are they? They are Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin. To get it done, this would give you additional checks. Yes, additional checks on top of the four stimulus checks that are in every U.S. state. Let's recap. Later in this recording, I'm going to show you how to get checks today. Not 5 weeks from now, not 5 months from now from the Build Back Better Act. Rather, right today. But the Build Back Better Act, the negotiations are going quite well. What do the two senators say? Number one, they both really adore each other. They've worked hand in hand, side by side for many years, so they know each other quite well. The Democrat from New York, the Democrat from West Virginia. Second, they do not mince their words. They're very blunt with one another, so they say what they don't like and what they do like. Third, they want to get you these incredible checks, and they want them to come to you before the midterm elections. The latest details on that Build Back Better Act, we're going to go over all of that, starting right now with one element of surprise that really is at issue tonight, and that certainly is something you may have saw last night. The primaries were resolved last night in the state of Georgia, and what happened? Well, what happened was, in the state of Georgia, Herschel Walker won the Republican nomination for the Republican candidate for Senate from out of Georgia. He will now challenge Raphael Warnock this fall. This is big for the Build Back Better Act. Why? Because the senators, Democrats, understand that to retain control of the Senate, they need to get you stimulus. And that is why I believe that Herschel Walker win for the Republican primary last night for the Georgia Senate seat really inks the solution, really inks the finish line for the Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act has a lot of checks in there, and those incredible checks amount to $15,000 to $80,000. We're going to go over all those incredible checks starting right now. And what am I also going to do is I'm going to give you my analysis of the finality or lack of it from each of those provisions based upon Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin has been very blunt since last year, saying which provisions he doesn't like and which ones he does like. Now that the negotiations are down to two individuals, Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer, we can certainly take Joe Manchin's comments from last year to understand which provisions are falling out and which ones will survive. First, the Build Back Better Act has about $15,000 to $80,000 of incredible checks in there. Let's look at those add-ons. The first one is $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. That's likely to survive. Then $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Not going to survive. That is money that comes from Medicare expansion. Anything that involves expansion of Medicare, Joe Manchin says, I'm not touching it. He believes that Medicare is broken and he does not want to spend any money on Medicare. So that is why it's important to know that that provision is likely to fall out. What about those MSCs? $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for 6 months? We don't know. Joe Manchin's never said anything positive or negative about them at all. Now, with that, let's turn to those individual clusters of checks. That first cluster, everything is likely to survive. $4,000 of elder care, yes, as long as it doesn't come from Medicare. $3,600 for the CTC for the children, yes. Hazard pay, 1 more year of the Earned Income Tax Credit established under third stimulus and extended under fourth. Yeah, I believe it's going to survive as well. $4,000 of care for young children. $12,500 to the purchase of a new electric vehicle, U.S. union made. I believe will survive so long as it doesn't tip off anything in the energy environment, of which Joe Manchin is chairman on the Senate. Then the nutrition checks, yes. Home repairs, absolutely. And everything else in that first cluster looks like it would survive. The bloodbath, however, starts in cluster number 2. Home repairs is now become a fourth stimulus check in every U.S. state. It's coming up later in this recording. Stay with me. It's a huge check, and viewers have gotten it. But that second provision of cluster number 2, paid leave, falling apart, ain't going to survive. This is a provision that Joe Manchin said in 2021 he will vote against the Build Back Better Act if it's in there. Nancy Pelosi put it in there in spite of Joe Manchin. It will get removed. Paid leave is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness from work. Let's go to that third cluster. The bloodbath continues. Free internet for all, that would survive. Farmers' checks, independent contractors' checks, sure, those would survive. But everything for seniors that Bernie Sanders wanted in there will not survive. They all come from expansion of Medicare. Dental, nope. Hearing, no. Vision, no. Expansion of the Medicare so that people 55 years of age would get it, which is basically reducing the age of Medicare qualification. Absolutely not. Not going to survive. What about the Medicaid gap fix? That would survive. That was actually done by Warnock and Joe Manchin. That will provide a workaround plan for 12 Republican holdout states to provide insurance to uninsured people in those 12 states. And that is the status tonight of the Build Back Better Act. Those incredible checks in there are huge, but what you need to know is you cannot wait for the Build Back Better Act to become a law. You need to get checks tonight. And later in this recording, we're going to go over those forced stimulus checks now in every U.S. state. They're a lot. They're upwards of 80,000. You qualify for them. You need to get them right now because later in this recording, we're going to go over the predicted stimulus stampede. 90 days out from now, I'm predicting that people are going to be rushing in looking for checks because the economy will have tailspin in 90 days from now. Step 1, subscribe. Step 2, become a member. Step 3, get that newsletter. And step 4, stay with me for the second half of this video as I show you how to get these incredible forced stimulus checks in every U.S. state. The other item that really supports forced stimulus is not only the need to get it out, not only the midterm elections, to secure that the Senate is still Democratic-led by not dropping that seat in Georgia to Herschel Walker and retaining it with Raphael Warnock. The other part of Build Back Better Act that is supporting it is the implosion of the U.S. economy. The stock market crash of 2022 has just started, and that stock market crash is very pervasive. And what's at issue tonight is that it's far from over. What do you need to know on this stock market crash? It started no less than 5 weeks ago when Amazon reported disappointing corporate earnings. The retail implosion continued as it followed with Walmart, Target, and then this last week was Kohl's and Ross Department Stores for Less. Tonight we have more details as well, as another major retail miss came in. And who was that? It was featured this morning on Mornings LALATE Live as soon as it happened. It was Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods reported earnings and it fell dramatically, down 15%. Now, it was not a bad day for the retail sector, but it was a mixed bag. Express, the retailer for high-end, came in with good numbers and it went up 12% today. Then we also had Nordstrom, the big winner of the day. Why did Nordstrom do well? Why did Nordstrom do well? Because the concept is that in the case of Dick's Sporting Goods, you're buying products to go hiking. In the case of Nordstrom, you're going back to work and you need to buy clothes to get back to work. That is why the retail slump hit Dick's Sporting Goods really severely, but not in the case of Nordstrom, which rose 5.3%. Dick's Sporting Goods at some point today was down as much as 20%. The retail implosion continued, but it was inconsistent as Urban Outfitters fell, but Toll Brothers was up about 4%. Why was the retail slump so bad today, and what is the signal about this U.S. economy? Dick's Sporting Goods President and Chief Executive Lauren Hobart explained the situation there. Dick's Sporting Goods had the product in the store. It got delivered to the product in the store. It did not sell in the magnitude that they wanted. Their revenue was up, but their net profits was down. Familiar subject it is. This is what's going on with the retail sector, is they are getting the products in. The supply chain disruption has nothing to do with not getting the products in. They're coming. They're coming late. As Walmart reported last week, the products came in after the season was over. Hence, we went from cold weather to warm climate. People didn't want cold weather clothing, and the product sat and didn't sell. So, moreover, some of the individuals, like in the case of Dick's Sporting Goods, they betted on more people were not going back to work. They were going to be more outdoors. They were not as outdoors. They were back into work, and that's why Nordstrom went up and Dick's Sporting Goods went down. This implosion of the consumer spending and the retail numbers are huge for Build Back Better Act because it shows consumer confidence is dropping. It shows supply chain disruption is causing sentiments to dissipate, and here comes lift. Lyft, like Uber, the ride-sharing companies, are hitting badly, are getting pummeled. And Lyft is down 60% this year. It is down 17% this week alone. As it reported, it's going to slow hiring, and it has big problems with cost cutting. That's the same that Uber Technology said earlier this week when it said, you know what, we can't hire as many people. This is a big problem. This is where we take it to Thursday when we're going to watch those employment numbers. I believe that employment is slowing dramatically in the United States because, as Walmart said, we have too many products on our shelves and they're not selling. We have too many store merchants and we're not selling. These retail slump numbers are big news for Build Back Better Act because as the slump continues, you'll need more assistance across the board. Now, let's go into the breaking news tonight. As the GDP numbers were released minutes ago, this is breaking news. You have not heard it to just minutes ago. It came in from a nonpartisan organization featured on this channel for many, many years. It is the Congressional Budget Office's report. The CBO report obtained by LALATE News minutes ago was just released. And boy, is it right on the money for what I've been reporting for 6 months. Over the last 6 months, I've been telling you that the gross national product of the U.S. economy will shrink to 0% by the end of the year because we're going into recession. And that the current growth rate that was supposed to be 7.1 but is likely 6.9 will shrink dramatically by the end of the year. So what did the CBO report say? Did it say we're going to have that wonderful 7% growth? No, it came very close to what I'm predicting. 2.2% GDP growth by 2023. Then that's not by the end of this year, it's by 2023. So this is really almost on the money with what I'm projecting. And yes, a 2.2% GDP is still not recession. Let's make that very clear. Recession would be really almost a negative number in some definitions of the words. Other definitions of GDP means it has to be negative growth. But it will be negative growth to get to 2.2% GDP growth if we're already at 6% right today. We have to shrink 4% in just a few months. In CBO's projections, the current economic expansion continues and economic output grows rapidly over the next year. But because of demand and services, business increases, supply chain disruption will hinder the growth in 2022. So they're reporting supply chain disruption still impacting GDP next year. Here comes the big shocker, and you know what I'm about to say. Yes, inflation was also announced in that GDP report obtained tonight. And here comes what we featured last night on this channel. Thank you, next. Evoking the language of Ariana Grande. Jay Powell has been saying for nearly 5 months that he is going to raise those interest rates to get down inflation to 2% later this year. I've been saying thank you, next, because it's ridiculous. It's just insane. So what did the CBO report tonight say? Did it say that Jay Powell is getting inflation down to 2%? No. The GDP report to release tonight says that the Fed will not reach its 2% inflationary projection for later this year. It will be 3.8%. Folks, can someone tap me on the back? Can someone tap me on the back? I've been telling you for 6 months we're getting inflation down to 4% later this year, and Jay Powell was wrong at 2.2%. Here we go. CBO, a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, part of the U.S. government, announced my number. 3.8% by the end of this year is what they're projecting for inflation. Whoa. That tees up, of course, what also happened later tonight. Later tonight, we learned also the minutes from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve FOMC meeting notes were released minutes ago. And what did we see in there? We see in there a lot of tensions among the individuals at the Federal Reserve about worried that these spikes may cause financial instability in the U.S. economy. First, this is breaking news tonight from May 25th, 2022. The Federal Reserve's FOMC meetings notes are not from this week. They're not from last week. They're not after the implosion of the tech sector. They're not after the implosion of the stock market, whether it's retail or whether it's Snap stocks. It's before that. And what did they say before that in these minutes obtained by LA News tonight? First, they expect growth to slow solidly by Q2 this year. We are in Q2 right now. So they expect the GDP growth to slow solidly this quarter. This was before the stock market crash of the last 2 weeks. Next, the bond rates are falling dramatically tonight to 2.75%. The report in some cases may be presumed as stale. But the next FOMC meeting is in June 15th, and by all indications, they're doing a half basis point at that June FOMC meeting for those interest rate spikes. How many more spikes thereafter? This is where it gets interesting tonight. This is breaking news. They may likely do a half basis point in June and a half basis point in July. But that might be it. That might be it. They may not be able to get to that third, and the third may only be a quarter. My projections tonight is that they're not going to get to a third half basis point. We're going to do a half this coming month, June, half in July, and then I think we're going to do a quarter in August, and that may be it. Maybe we'll do another quarter thereafter. But we're not going to keep on doing 50 basis points. Let me tell you what the Federal Reserve said in this FOMC minutes notes obtained by LALATE News. Again, this is not notes from... These are notes released tonight, but this is the release of the notes from their meeting earlier this month before the stock market crash happened. Let me tell you what they said. All participants reaffirmed their strong commitment and determination to take the measures necessary to restore price stability. But to this end, participants agree that the committee should be moving in a stance of neutral position and that reduce the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Then they said most participants judged that a 50 basis point increase would be likely appropriate at the next couple of meetings. But they need to be evolving based upon the economic outlook and the risk of the outlook. Well, you know what that risk is tonight, bear market. We went into a bear market after that FOMC meeting for which these notes I'm reading from tonight have been released. The bear market was caused because of the last FOMC meeting of May, and that bear market is bringing down stocks dramatically. Here's how badly the stock market crash of 2022 will be. What I want you to understand is we are not at the bottom tonight. Where are we on this downward spiral? The stock market crash tonight will bring us further down, and how further down will it be? Let me tell you. Analysts now consensus agree that a bear market means a downward spiral by 20% of the U.S. stock market. We're already there. We're already down 20%. Some stocks are down 60%. But if it's a bear market plus a recession, we go down 47.8%. Ouch. The stock market crash of 2022 has just begun. And it'll continue into 2023 and 2024 because we're going in recession, in my opinion. Let's go back to that CBO report. If you don't agree with me, but you want to agree with CBO, they're saying that we're going to just a nominal growth rate next year. A very, very nominal growth rate. Let me give you the growth rate for the next 2 years. Here we go. This is the CBO again. They're saying that the GDP growth of the U.S. economy next year will be 2.2%, but it will shrink to 1.5% in 2024. Now, that's based upon current economic data. They can certainly reassess. So they're basically saying no growth in 2024. Recession. Yeah, it's really close to them saying recession. And their CBO report was not really live data. I mean, it's not like they're writing the CBO report tonight. It took several weeks to write it up, and that several weeks of data evolved very dramatically. Also evolving across the board is not just the stock market crash of 2022, but the housing market crash of 2022. The housing market, by all indication tonight, is clearly in a bubble-like environment. And that bubble-like environment is caused by a series of really non-credible statements by individuals from both the realtor side and the builder side about where this market is. Let me look at the data tonight with you on that bear market and understand why that situation on housing is getting worse by the minute. The housing market crash of 2022 is just starting. And by my indication, we're already in a recession for the housing market. 4 consecutive months of down housing sales. That was number 1. Surging prices for labor, surging prices for materials. That's number 2 and number 3. But here comes the demand part of the equation. The demand part of the equation was in that data released last night, featured on Evenings LA last night. It said the demand was not there. The consumer has been priced out of the housing market. The builders had to increase the price of the home because the supply chain disruption increased the price of the goods, and because the labor shortage increases the price of the subcontractors. So what did the builders do? They passed the price over to you, increase the price. Good idea? No, not a good idea. It kicked people out of the market. It took people out of the equation. Now, here's the reaction to the news. This is what I call bubble-like environment, or thank you next. Clearly disingenuous nonsense coming from builders and realtors on the builder side. They said the demand is still there. They're just not buying. That's not demand. If they don't buy, it's not demand. If they show up and they see the price point is too high, they're not buying. The second part of the equation that is also pure nonsense is coming from the realtor side of the market. The realtors say that we don't care about the surging mortgage rates because everyone is an all-cash buyer. That doesn't make sense. I'll tell you why. Because the housing market is crashing because people cannot come up with the cash because their assets from which they liquefy out of are becoming valueless or going down in value. Let me explain how simple this is. You put a house on the market, you wait for a buyer to come. The buyer shows up, says, I have all cash. Do you think the buyer had the cash sitting in the bank for the last 5 months? No. The buyer saw the house, liked the house, and sold out of a position. A tech stock, a Walmart stock, a Dick's Sporting Goods stock, or maybe they sold some crypto, or maybe they sold an antique car. They sold an asset that had a great value at the time they could sell it, cashed it out, got the cash, and then made you an approach to buy the home. This is what happened tonight, folks. The stock market crash has now devalued stocks down 20 to 40%, is crashing housing market valuations, is crashing the auto sales, especially used cars, especially antique cars. And as more casualties in this market for asset devaluation occurs, people will not be able to come up with cash at the same valuations the cash would have been a few weeks ago. Let me make it even simpler. Let's say you own 1,000 shares of Facebook and it's down 25% in 1 month. You think you're going to sell them? No, of course not. You're not going to sell your Facebook stock to go buy that house down the street. You're just not going to buy the house. And that is the bubble-like talk of the housing market crash for 2022. This erosion of nonsense continues to grow left and right. And it's very different than the stock market crash, because what's going on with the stock market crash is that it's a clear, understood, slow progression down. What's in the case of the housing market crash, it's just pure nonsense we're hearing from the builders and also from the realtors. In the case of the recession, more Americans are understanding that we're going to recession for 2 years than ever before. The data tonight is shocking. 81% of Americans polled by a financial news channel said that we will be in recession later this year. They believe that the bear market is indication we're in a recession. It's not. Recession is not the same as inflation. It's not the same as bear market. But that consumer confidence or lack of it, that quick erosion happening tonight is very much indicative that a recession is being driven by the retail slumps, is being driven by less GDP growth, is being driven by the pervasive concerns of more spikes from the Federal Reserve. As these concerns continue to grow left and right, then what does this mean for you? It means something has to move. And that something that has to move is money. And that's what I have for you. A forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. The great news is that I, here, you, me, and this Purple Power community have forced stimulus checks in every U.S. state. You're not going to see this anywhere in broadcast media. You're not going to see it in print media. You're not going to see it on another YouTube station. You're not going to see it anywhere. Because my job is to find you checks. If you were with this channel on day one, when the pandemic hit in April of 2020, what I did was I stepped forward and I helped people in time of need. You're about to lose your business. You need an EIDL grant, an EIDL loan. I went through the application, showed you how to get it. You were about to lose your job, or you did lose your job. You needed FPC or PUA or UI. I showed you how to get it, and you got it. You needed PPP, LWA, and other instruments. As the pandemic raged out of control, I showed you how to get it, and you got it. Tonight is much like that same situation, because since March of 2020, when we understood that the Build Back Better Act was still not law, when we understand that the GDP was shrinking dramatically, I looked left and right to find you checks, for stimulus checks. And where did I find them? I found them by executive order from Joseph Biden. In the second half of this video, we're going to go over these 4 stimulus checks that Joseph Biden has in there. And those 4 stimulus checks are in every U.S. state. They're for you if you're single, if you're married, with children, without children, on benefits, not on benefits. They're for you if you rent, you own, and they are for you in every U.S. state. But you need to get them tonight. You need to pounce really quickly. Because in the second half of this video, I'm going to go over the next 90 days of what's happening. Stimulus stampede. Millions of Americans will be coming on this channel looking for a check as this U.S. economy continues to fade and as this U.S. economy shrinks dramatically. Confirmed tonight by that CBO report, confirmed tonight by the Federal Reserve's minutes, people will be looking for, guess what? Yes, A 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state. And in that second half of this video, we're going to go over these incredible 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. What do you do to get these checks? What do you need to know to get these huge checks across the board? Step 1, you want to subscribe. Step 2, you want to become a member. Step 3, you want to get that YouTube newsletter, membership newsletter, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. During the commercial break, subscribe and become a member and get ready with that newsletter as I go over those 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state in the second half of this video. Then we turn to the exciting details in the second half about student loan debt forgiveness. New offers on the table. What would they be? The latest on that front. You're going to Memorial Day weekend. I'm staying here. I'll be recording night and day, but the price of gasoline's going up. Could it go up even dramatically higher? Yes, I'll have the shocking news on that front tonight as well. 6 stimulus may have a solution, and that solution may be a deal within days. Boy, we have a big item on that front as well. Thursday has a lot of major developing details. Those retail sales numbers coming in and those unemployment numbers, I'll give you my guidance on that front as well. But in the second half of this video, we're going to get lots of checks. We'll understand where these checks came from, and we'll understand how you get them as well. Become a member, subscribe, and get ready for the second half of America's most watched show for financial news in prime time. It's Evenings LA. And from the shores of Santa Monica, California, I'll see you back in 60 seconds as Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the exciting details continue right now in a big second half from May 25th, 2022 from the shores of Santa Monica, California. How are you? It's Evenings LA. And in the second half of this video, we're going to be going over that 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state. How you get that check, how you pounce, how you clean up, and what do you do to get these incredible sums of money. It's a 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state. I'm going to go over all those incredible details starting right now. How do these 4 stimulus checks come to fruition, and where did we find them? Well, it started back in March of this year when millions of Americans watching this channel said, LA, can you give me a check? That Build Back Better Act hasn't gotten done. Can you give me a check? And I did. I looked high and low, needle and haystack, absolutely, to get these 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. Then I found them, one after another. I gave them a lettering system, A, B, and C, and more. Stay later in this video. I got another check for you later. And immediately I delivered them on air and put them in the membership newsletter. Let's understand the notion of how this works. In March of 2020, when you were going on a lockdown, you needed money right away. I stepped forward and got that money. In December 2020, when Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin had no deal on the second stimulus package, you needed money right at the moment. I jumped right in there and got it for you in December 2020. Now, in May 2022, you absolutely need the money. And if you don't think you do, 90 days from now, it's going to be a stimulus stampede. More about that in a second. But here we go. Let's get some checks. The 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state are incredible, and they're for you. Single, married, without children, with children, on benefits, not on benefits, rent or own. Get ready. I hope you became a member during the commercial break. Here we go. The first forced stimulus check in every U.S. state is that incredible check A. That incredible check A, which is in every U.S. state, is $6,500 to $12,000. Let's go over these incredible checks, starting, of course, with that check A right now. Check A, $6,500 to $12,000. It's a forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. It is the homeowner's weatherizing grant check. It is for single individuals, $75,000 or less, married couple, $150,000 or less. Go get it. How do you get this forced stimulus check in every U.S. state? Very simple. Step 1, subscribe to this channel. Step 2, become a member. Go right into the membership newsletter and go down to Check A. In that membership newsletter at Check A, then you'll see the link. You click the link and you go right into the application. Apply and get that $6,500 to $12,000 forced stimulus check. But you're not going to stop there yet, because there's another check, and that is Check B. $15,000 to $80,000 forced stimulus check. I don't mess around here, folks. I don't get people $600 checks. I don't get people $200 checks. I'm here for big money, so you're financially independent for months to come, and that is what this check does. If you've had a success story, send it to me on Facebook, and I will feature it live on air. Send me a private message on Facebook. We've had a lot of viewers this week at Check B and A, and congratulations. For Check B, viewers are tracking at about $66,000 to $80,000. It's a forced stimulus check. It's called the homeowner's grant. Single individual, married couple, you go get it. Now, if you know benefits, SSI, SSDI, veterans benefits, go get it as well. How do you get this incredible Check B? It's very simple. 1, subscribe to this channel. Then become a member. The link's under the video. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. Then get that membership newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And go right down the membership newsletter. Apply for Check A. Go right under Check, go a little bit lower down, and then you find Check B and apply. You're not going to stop there yet, because I got another check, and that is Check C. Check C is wonderful. Check C is the continuation of a check that I've been featured on this channel since December 2020. At the time, it was called Purple. Then it became Third Stimulus when it became law in January 2021. Now it's called Check C. It is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. It's upwards of 15 phone calls you make. You can get upwards of 15 checks, and it's tracking at $2,000 a month for 12 months and MSC right now. This is that wonderful Check C for my renters and more. How do you get that Check C? Very simple. You subscribe, become a member, go right down that membership newsletter to Check C. I tell you who to call and what to say. Yes, in the case of Check C, you're not applying online. You're actually making phone calls, about 15 of them, and asking for this incredible assistance. And there you go. That is Check A, Check B, and Check C. A forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. Go get it tonight. Let's recap a couple things and add in a few more as well. First, a couple things you need to do. Step 1, go to the front of this channel. Hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a video. You don't want to miss anything on your stimulus or your financial news ever on this channel. Hit that subscribe button. Number 2, hit that membership link. It says join under the video. Hit join to get a membership so you get this incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. Third, the newsletter. It's delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is West Coast, delivered via the YouTube alerts. So if you have YouTube alerts going to, let's say, email, it'll say new LALATE post at 7 p.m. The first line will say newsletter. There'll be a picture of a guy with a surfboard. It'll say newsletter. And right below it'll say click here to go to the post. You click there and you go right in, and you'll see the very long post. Features the price of gasoline and wheat and corn. Check A, B, and C, and you go right in and apply. Meantime, if you're having problems finding the newsletter, send me a private message on Facebook at facebook.com/LALATE news. Put the news at the end. Send me a private message, and I will send you an informational video on the newsletter. It explains how to use it, where it is, and how to open it, and everything you need to know about it. And go get those incredible checks. And congratulations to all the viewers who have gotten those checks in the last few days. As we turn to tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of changing, developing details. And one of the items I'm going to be watching for, of course, is that bear market. The issue of the bear market is going to kick in staggeringly tomorrow as we wait to see what's going to happen with some more corporate earnings. Which are the ones I'm watching for? The ones I'm watching for corporate earnings are Macy's and also Costco. They're reporting corporate earnings Thursday. We want to see how pervasive this retail slump is. Next, I'm also looking at what's happening with the tech sector. Snap, of course, reported those dismal corporate earnings as a social media company early this week out of Southern California. That brought down everything from Facebook to Twitter. The tech implosion has continued day after day. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen on that front. This is all bad news because as stocks go down, valuations go down. People have less cash on hand. The bond market goes left and right. Tonight is slumping to 2.75. The other thing I'm going to be looking for tomorrow, of course, is that student loan debt forgiveness. Yes, student loan debt forgiveness. There's reportedly offers on the table from the president and negotiators. Insiders believe that the president will have an announcement imminently for student loan debt forgiveness. Where did this come from? It came from a top analyst for the situation, featured on the channel for many years, many months. His name is Mark Kranowitz. An announcement will be imminent, says Kranowitz. Biden's meeting this week with policymakers who have been advocating for loan forgiveness. In all likelihood, student loan forgiveness will be limited in eligibility and amount, so you can count on erasing it out of the student loan debt. What debts would happen and how would they happen? I believe that the president's going to forgive $10,000. He's already forgiven the individuals' debts that were procured by fraud by the university against them. People who became disabled after graduation, went to work in the nonprofit or public sector after graduation. $10,000, I think, is the magic number. He's already said he'll say no to $50,000. Now, on another front, the president and the Western allies have been trying to really shore up that sixth stimulus. Sixth stimulus is the Putin-caused stimulus. As you understand, when Putin invaded Ukraine back in March, I said a series of events are not sustainable. All those events are still continuing. Price of gasoline, price of wheat, price of corn, all growing dramatically. And nothing has been done by the Western allies that's been shoring it up to solidify it. Well, we may actually finally have a deal. That statement comes from an individual close to the situation, and that is the European Commissioner's President, Ursula von der Leyen, who during a speech at Brussels in the EU headquarters just days ago said that a deal to ban Russian oil is just finally days away. Why did it take so long to get that ban of that Russian oil? Because they needed to give a waiver to 3 countries that can't get off of it. Hungary, Slovakia, and Czech Republic will be allowed temporarily to still buy Russian oil with this deal solidified across the board. Now, turning back to Europe for just a second, we heard earlier in this recording why the Federal Reserve will be doing half basis point, certainly in June and July, and then maybe a quarter thereafter is my predictions. But what is the rest of Europe going to be doing? Well, earlier today, I delivered the breaking news from the European Union's individuals in Davos, Switzerland. They've been over there talking about the economies, and what did they say today, and what did they say yesterday? Conflicting comments. First, we had the president of France, the Bank of France, saying, and that person's name is Francois Villeroy de Gaulle, saying that there would not be any more rate hikes for Europe for interest rates in July and September. Then suddenly we had Klaas Knot saying that's not true. Knot said that's not true. Not as far as I'm concerned, and no, not as I've read it from the president. It's not off the table. That's actually Knot's question. That's actually Knot's quote. Knot says that a 50 basis point hike from the EU in July is still potentially on the table. Whoa. So my takeaway, my analysis tonight, what do I think about this front? Well, here we go. Here's my takeaway. I believe that the Federal Reserve will do a half basis point in June, half basis point in July, half basis point in August. No, I think the Federal Reserve will do a quarter basis point in August. I do think that the European Central Bank will do 1/2 basis point. And then after that, I think it's a very fluid situation. Why is this changing so dramatically? It's changing so dramatically because all these comments from these Fed heads, from these Fed governors, from these ECBU people, from the CBO, are all data driven, and the data has changed in the last 4 days, in the last 7 days, in the last 3 weeks. The GDP growth signaling that we're shrinking very dramatically. That's indisputable information tonight. And the U.S. economy shrinking dramatically. The retail slump continues across the board, not just Target, off Target. everything from Kohl's to other companies across the board. Now, the companies that have been able to sustain this bad downward spiral of retail are companies that pivoted well, but a lot did not. And of course, the question at issue, more spikes for the FOMs for the Federal Reserve? Yes. I believe the Federal Reserve will do half basis point in July, half basis point in August, and then a quarter by, I believe half in June, half in July, and then a quarter by August. Housing market crash just continues to revolve downward, as those housing starts were poor for 4 months and continue to erode. The recessionary worries continue to grow as more Americans believe that we're going to recession later this year. I'm predicting it's going to go into next year. The stock market is just starting its crashing because why? With stocks like Lyft down 60%, Snap down 40%, the erosion of these prices are just getting started. And if we go any further, yes, this could be the real changing of the guard. All these data, all these points at issue signals that this U.S. economy could be getting very bad very quickly. And if it gets very bad very quickly, what are people going to be looking for? More stimulus. A fourth stimulus check will be the talk of the town in less than 90 days from here, I predict. Why? Because this U.S. economy is getting really bad very quickly. It's getting very bad. Whether we look at the CBO or the FOMC meetings notes, they both confirm we're shrinking as an economy. The growth is no longer there. They really don't know about the labor market. This is where we're watching those Thursday numbers. The Thursday new unemployment numbers, I'm going to see whether we're over 200,000 new jobless claims. If we're over 200,000 new jobless claims this Thursday, it triggers what we're thinking when we saw those Walmart Q1 corporate earnings reports last week. Walmart said we had too many store merchants. We had too many people selling the goods in the stores, and the goods was not selling. We don't need that many employees. Yeah, that means that people are going to start getting laid off. And as people get laid off, will they find another job? This is what happens with recession. When there's a recession, there's a hiring freeze, and people don't hire people. People are talking about labor shortage at the moment. I got to tell you, that's a very much thank you next statement. Why? Because it's going to swap from labor shortage to labor unemployment numbers. Why? Because the business will suddenly say, shortage, I don't need this many employees. I'm laying them all off. And they're going to look somewhere else for those employees, and they're not going to have a job somewhere else. Because suddenly the cost to run the business is growing so astronomically. Uber, Lyft, Walmart, in less than 7 days have all said, we're not going to hire anymore. Snap, saying 500 more employees for next year, and that's it. I mean, that's nothing for a major tech company. So they're all suddenly not hiring. So anyone in the financial world who talks about labor shortage, it shows their data is backed up, 3 months. We're no longer labor shortage, folks. We're now people potentially losing their jobs. If they lose their jobs, where are they going to be? Here, looking for stimulus. If their businesses are small and mom and pops and they're suffering because of the inflationary pressures, where are they going to be? Here, looking for stimulus. That is why you need to be people like this. These are graphics of people who have pounced and got to massive sums of money. You need to be like these people who continue to go back and get sums of money. Let's look Mark and Nancy. Mark and Nancy, clear example. They had started, impressively, 23,000, 32,000, but both very different individuals, different times of 2021 and 2022, listened and learned and understood, keep on getting stimulus by watching LA. I got a lot of shows throughout the day, and these people keep on coming back every week or so with another $8,000. Nisi has gotten $8,000, I think, 4 more times this year. She's grown to $50,000. Mark was at $32,000 in late 2021. What did he do? He grew it from 32 to 50 because I told him to. Then he grew it to 100. Then he listened and he got check B. You remember check B early in this video. 66,000, how much Mark got? He's at over 100,000 now, 166,000. Lorraine, she's at 105. She then went to 120. She keeps on pushing to get these big sums of money. What you need to do is understand that a stimulus stampede is coming 90 days from now. Out to sea, out in that Pacific, you see the storm coming on land. It's not here yet. The winds are picking up. The winds are not inflation. The winds are not labor shortage. The winds are not price escalation or price instability in gasoline. The winds are recession. When that recession gets closer to land, you're going to really feel it. But you're not going to wait to that wind to pick up near land. You are going to go out and get checks tonight. We aren't here to ask what day is the vote for the Build Back Better Act. We aren't here to wonder what's going to happen in the future. No, we are here to shore up our bank accounts with as many checks as we can grab right tonight, right this moment. You don't want to wait. And that is why, with that stimulus stampede less than 90 days away, you won't be running on the beach when a storm is coming. You'll be running to the bank to cash some checks. That is why I need you to move quickly. Step 1, subscribe to this channel. Step 2, become a member. Step 3, get these incredible checks Monday through Friday in the membership newsletter, delivered at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And when you get one check, go back and get another check. These 4 stimulus checks are now in every U.S. state, but in 90 days from now, who knows? Who knows what's going to be happening in 90 days from now? As the winds pick up offshore, as that recession approaches land in 90 days from now, not touching land in 90 days, but picking up speed offshore 90 days, people are going to start to worry. Americans were not even talking about recession back in February. I was the only person in broadcast media that was. Now people are getting a little bit antsy about it, and that antsy will continue to grow, and people will suddenly start to feel the pressure. The pressure not just of inflation, not just a bear market, but a looming recession. People are going to rush to get those checks, and that's why I want you to move tonight. Step 1, subscribe. Step 2, become a member. Step 3, get that membership newsletter. And also stay with me for the shows throughout the day, because there's so much breaking news now on this channel that I really do not overlap any of the videos and content at all. There's too much breaking news all throughout the day. In this recording alone, you just saw a lot of stuff like the CBO and the Federal Reserve that we didn't even have 2 hours ago. The news cycle is moving so quickly because people are very worried about this economy. So join me before sunrise. The sunrise, LA, at 3 and 3:30. Early mornings, LA, at 4 o'clock. Big show this morning. Thank you for the viewership. 9 o'clock, we're live on air for mornings, LA. 11 a.m. is home. Then we go into 1 o'clock afternoons, 3 o'clock afternoons. Then we go into evenings at 5 o'clock in prime time, America's most watched show for financial news. 6 o'clock is countdown. 7 o'clock is evenings stream and stimulus. 8 o'clock is evenings extra. And then 9 o'clock is sunset. Our shows continue throughout the night. And then our overnight live show starts every day at about 2. And then another one show picks up at about 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And with that, God bless. Keep on pushing. Send me your success stories on Facebook, and I will feature them live on air. Stay with me tomorrow and the day after as big financial news continues to come on in from Wall Street. This market's very uncertain. This housing market is really tipsy-turvy. The stock market is far from its erosion. The stimulus is far from conclusion. And the FOMC meeting notes signal that those interest rate spikes are far from over. Meantime, big surprise, because I have something else for you now that you stayed to the very end of this video. 2 items. First, I believe that the price of gasoline will go even higher than what you're paying this Memorial Day weekend. I will be recording all Memorial Day weekend, but enjoy the price that you're spending now, because I expect it to go even higher. Yeah, enjoy $5 a gallon, LA. Are you being facetious? Well, no. I expect that the price of gasoline, domestic, unleaded, AAA, will grow from $5.45 to $6.45 in the next 90 days. Why? Because China's coming off a lockdown. As China comes off a lockdown, their consumption will increase. Their consumption will increase shortage, and that increase of shortage will drive the prices up. The price of gasoline is far from its height of where it's going. So if you want to fill up that gasoline, fill it up when you have an opportunity to get it cheap, because I expect it to get worse in the next 30 days. But you deserve a reward, because we've all gone through a big day with so many details. Let's get some more checks. And that is Check D. Check D is a 4 stimulus check in your state. That Check D is different based upon where you live. And how do you learn about that incredible Check D? Check D is in the membership newsletter. For Check D, you go right down into the membership newsletter and you pounce. That incredible Check D is in every U.S. state, and just go get that incredible Check D. That 4 stimulus check of Check D ranges from anywhere from $2,000 and more. Go get that incredible sums of money. And with that, thank you and God bless. It's been a great night. It's been a great day, and a lot of details at issue for us to grab. Grab every single check you can by becoming a member, subscribing, getting that newsletter, and pouncing. And then join me throughout the night as the news coverage continues. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, to the shores of the Black Sea, from my home to your home, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Main Street to Wall Street. This is LA.